Their powers clash, but it looks like Jaehyun might be gaining the upper hand. Jaehyun keeps up the relentless assault, driving the cocky guy to flee in the opposite direction to save his own skin. Jung-wooman tries to strike back with a massive blitz chain attack, but Jaehyun swiftly activates his absolute calculation ability, disintegrating the incoming attack while sending his own arrow straight at his opponent. Desperate, Jung-wooman throws up a barrier to shield himself. But Jaehyun isn't done yet. He uses his absolute calculation once more, nullifying the shield and leaving Jung-wooman defenseless. The arrow strikes him directly, unable to dodge in time. As the dust settles, Jaehyun walks up to the fallen Jung-wooman, who's begging for mercy like a dramatic soap opera scene. Tears are streaming down his face, but Jaehyun ain't going to cut any slack. He just lets loose with a fiery arrow that finishes off the cocky guy in one good blow. After the intense battle, Jaehyun is totally wiped out. He flops down on the ground, thinking about how he finally snagged a mythic item, only to end up facing death in such a crappy way. Death was always this scary thing he dealt with as a raider, but now that he's staring it in the face, it's a whole different feeling. He starts feeling that coldness creeping in. Then out of the blue, a system window pops up, talking about a new download. It offers him a way out. If he activates the system, then he can jump back to some past time. Knowing he's about to kick the bucket anyway, Jaehyun just says, "Yeah, sure, let's do this." With that command, the new system, known as Nornir, activates, and suddenly we find ourselves facing divine-looking ladies conversing in a foreign language that goes way over our heads. The blonde lady extends her hand, possibly grabbing our hero's hand in the process. Just as this happens, the friendly blue system windows turn deadly red, and a notification pops up stating that our hero has become a major enemy of the High Aesir. He's also gained 2 passive skills, with half of the Aesir's gods now keeping an eye on him at all times. Next thing he knows, he wakes up in his bed, looking utterly terrified as if he's seen a ghost. He scans the room, everything feeling surreal. He stares at his hand, where a red fiery blob starts to form, and the system announces that the user has successfully returned to the chosen time period. The memories of past suddenly flashes into his eyes, where he sees his dead mother, and the time when he fought Jung-wooman. He also sees his mother and rushes to hug her tightly, unwilling to let go, hoping desperately that this isn't just a dream, and in fact, this is not a dream. He was actually hugging his mom. After a while, once he is alone in his room, his chest pains sharply, jolting him back to reality. The system confirms the date as November 15th, 2020, which is the time he's been regressed back to, and his body has successfully been healed by 20%. Breathing heavily, he wonders if he's still dreaming. Looking around his familiar surroundings, he realizes he's indeed in his old home. A system notification pops up, presenting a quest titled, "A Break is the Mother of Success." His main task is simply to rest until fully recovered, with the promise of a blank card as a reward once he's restored. The boy exhales deeply, trying to calm his racing thoughts. He then reflects on how he died fighting that guy, and somehow ended up regressing 11 years back into the past thanks to this new system. 11 years is the same time when he was in his 3rd year of middle school. He checks his calendar and realizes that he has actually not been enrolled in the Mills Academy. He also finds a note from himself which is clearly telling him to choose martial arts, but he grabs his pen and immediately scratches that out. He's not going to waste this chance on the martial arts class, because this time, becoming a mage is definitely the way to go. In the next scene, we find him having dinner with his mother, struggling to hold back tears that threaten to spill from his eyes. His mother looks concerned, noticing his recent strange behavior. When she came home earlier, he had hugged her tightly and he cried deeply. She gently asks if something is bothering him. With a forced smile, he reassures her, saying it was just a nightmare, nothing more. But those haunting memories of his dead mother are far from mere nightmares. Finally gathering his courage, he tells her there's something he wants to discuss. She encourages him to speak freely. It's clear to her that he may not want to enroll in Mills Academy. She understands the dangers and fierce competition involved in such a path. She's prepared to let him choose a regular school if he's hesitant, not wanting to impose her wishes on him. But contrary to her expectations, our boy reveals that he's considering changing his major to enroll in the magic class instead. His mother chuckles at the sudden change and quickly approves of his decision, though she's visibly startled by the abrupt switch from his earlier determination to join the martial arts major. Despite her initial surprise, she trusts her son's judgment and believes he must have a good reason for the change. With a reassuring pat on his cheek, she encourages him to pursue what makes him happy, whether it's martial arts or magic, and assures him not to worry about financial matters. She promises to support him wholeheartedly in his choice. Moved by her understanding and support, the boy starts to cry again. And amidst his emotions, memories of his father, Min Seong-oh, who is an A-rank raider, flash through his mind, reigniting his desire to become stronger to take revenge against his father. Jaehyun is getting into serious training, starting with push-ups, and he's also earned a blank card from completing his first quest. His physique is getting toned and fit, something I envy a bit myself. As long as I'm here writing recaps for you guys, I don't think I can get back on the track for a six-pack abs grind. Jaehyun still isn't entirely clear on what the Nornir system entails, but he's not complaining as long as it keeps functioning. His past life knowledge will let him monopolize dungeon items, and his experience as a dungeon guide will surely be useful. However, he doesn't have many skills besides his martial arts abilities. Absolute Calculation and Blitz Chain he copied from Young Wooming. He leans back on his chair, summons his system, and checks his current stats. He's pretty sure his level has reverted to the current time and his stats have been reset. He also somehow retains all the passive skills from his previous life, with 2 new skills. The first one known as One Who Is Observed by the Gods and Supreme God's Eye, both maxed out. As we know, he also has Absolute Calculation and Blitz Chain skills, but he's curious about his passive skills. He then checks the One Who Is Observed by the Gods passive skill, which should assist him in rapid growth through divine blessings. This skill also helped him maintain his other passive skills during the regression, which explains why he retained all his skills without reset. Additionally, it boosts all his stats by an extra point every time he levels up. Thanks to this ability, most of the Aesir's demigods are keeping an eye on him. He then decides to explore his other skills. The Supreme God's Eye passive skill is also an exceptional skill that allows him to see through false illusions and uncover the truth. There's also an active skill called Blitz Chain, where he attacks enemies with electrified chains, sometimes causing paralysis. The mana consumption increases with the number of chains emitted. Initially, I thought they were fiery chains, and I'm pretty sure you'd agree with that too. He takes a look at his other stats. Despite all of them being at abysmal levels, he's really focused on beefing up his magic stat, which is super crucial. And he knows endurance is key too. In those marathon battles, you've got to keep going without burning out. After thinking it through, he decides to use his fresh blank card to copy a healing skill, since he's already got an offensive skill. You see, even in this year of 2020, where mages get no love, those with healing skills are still hot stuff. They're treated like royalty everywhere they go, earning respect beyond just scope of rating. So he figures as a mage with healing powers, he'll still get his due respect. But here's the catch. Finding an awakener with healing skills to copy will be like hunting for a needle in a haystack. Before he was desperate and used his blank card to fight with Young Woman. But this time around, he's not blowing it like that again, because he has no clue how many cards the system will grant him. His phone suddenly rings, and as he checks it, his eyes widen at seeing Kim Yoo-jung's name on the caller ID. Kim Yoo-jung is his childhood friend, someone he's been close to for years, and who had always shared his dream of attending Mills Academy to become a raider. In his previous life, he tragically lost her in his arms, a fate he's determined to change this time around. He smirks as he reads her text message. Apparently, she's calling him to meet Saintess Yu Seongen at her seminar. This news fills him with happiness, as Saintess Yu Seongen is known for her magical prowess, particularly in the magic of sacrifice. Without hesitation, he stands up, grabs his hoodie, and quickly informs his mom that he'll be back soon. Once outside, he checks his phone again and lets Kim Yoo-jung know that he's on his way. Meanwhile, a luxurious Rolls-Royce speeds through heavy traffic. Inside, Saintess Yu Seongen sits quietly, surrounded by a busy schedule as her manager updates her on the day's events. Concerned, the manager asks if she's all right, noting she's been pushing herself lately. She reassures him she's fine, but a bit tired, reminding him that sacrifice often means giving up one's own vitality. Meanwhile, the manager appears visibly anxious, wishing there was someone with healing skills comparable to Lady Seongjun's. He fears it's only a matter of time before exhaustion takes its toll on her. Meanwhile, our duo finally arrives at the event location. The girl seems eager, practically pulling our hero through the crowd. When they stop, the boy teases her, asking if she brought him along just because she was afraid of getting lost. The girl gets annoyed and embarrassed, telling him not to accuse her like that. She falls silent, which clearly indicates she did indeed bring him for that reason. He teases her again, joking about how such a smart girl can have such a terrible sense of direction. While she's giving him a hard time, our hero is secretly grateful to his friend. If he manages to copy Yu Seongen's sacrifice ability now, it could be a total game changer for him, potentially making him one of the best connections in Korea. As the crowd settles into their seats, our eager lady and our hero are amazed at her huge following, which isn't surprising. She's the Guildmaster of Lotus. She is a top-grade healer known across the nation and worldwide. In this era, raiders aren't yet used as meat shields, but she still always puts others' safety first. Finally, she steps onto the stage and the crowd goes wild. Our hero waits eagerly for the perfect moment to copy her abilities. While he waits, he lets slip that in just 2 months, the Saintess is going to get seriously sick during a dungeon raid in Itaewon. and it's all thanks to her own healing magic. Sacrifice. He figures he's the only one who could heal her if he could copy her abilities. Meanwhile, Kim Yoo-jung's getting all hyped up, which Jaehyun finds kinda annoying. On stage, the Saintess starts her spiel about how the world's in a mess because of Yggdrasil's tree and monsters munching on people's lives. Despite all that, she throws in some hope and tells everyone to remember the awakened who can help to save humanity, and urges one of them to become a raider as well. As her speech concludes, the fans are ecstatic, and Jaehyun acknowledges her words too, stating that since it's no easy task fighting monsters on the front lines, everyone feels reluctant to become a raider. He's a living example of this for us, because he also wanted to sell Odin's Eye to avoid raiding for cash. As they moved forward, she couldn't stop talking about the Saintess, while our hero kept teasing her, which really got on her nerves. He then mentions that he has already called her mom earlier to pick her up due to her poor sense of direction. She suggests he just catch a ride with her mom, but he brushes it off, saying he has other things to handle. Before leaving, he casually mentions changing his career path to focus completely on magic and hints he'll need her to teach him later. With that, he takes off without explaining why he changed his career plans, leaving her feeling disappointed and alone. The boy starts looking around and finally spots the lady's car. A smile spreads across his face as he heads towards the car, but the manager notices him approaching and tells him they're not accepting any fan visits right now. But the boy boldly states he's here to meet director Yoo Seong-eun. The manager sighs, clearly annoyed by another raider fanatic to deal with. With an irritated expression, the man cockily tells the boy to walk off and reminds him to respect her privacy, mentioning even the director would be bothered by his presence. The boy insists he's not here for a fan meet and greet. To convince the director, he reveals that he knows Lady Seong-eun is suffering from an untreatable disease and boldly claims he's the only one who can cure her. Naturally, the director is shocked to hear this and gets absolutely furious, grabbing our hero by the collar and demanding to know where he heard such a thing. But the boy calmly reminds him not to cause a scene and gestures towards the bystanders. At that moment, the lady herself rolls down her window and directly addresses our hero, asking if he can stand by his words. He confidently says yes, assuring her he can indeed cure her disease. Although she is hesitant to let our hero get close, the lady decides to give him a chance, knowing if he's lying, he'll be exposed soon enough. His unwavering confidence, however, makes him appear even more suspicious to her. She instructs her manager to make time for the boy and arrange a quieter place where they can discuss this privately. Once they settle somewhere quieter, the lady gets straight to the point and asks how he knows about her disease. The boy apologizes but bluntly states he can't reveal that much to her, making it clear that if he has to disclose that, he won't treat her diseases. The lady chuckles at his boldness and moves on to her next question, asking how he plans to treat her. Jaehyun is honest and tells her he intends to copy her sacrifice skill. Naturally, the lady is shocked to hear this, and the manager grows impatient, yelling at our hero, questioning if he understands the meaning of a skill being unique, and demands to know how he even intends to copy something which truly belongs only to the lady. Before we proceed, here's something about unique skills. They're essentially S-rank skills, the highest level, obtainable only through blood inheritance or individual skill manifestation. Unlike other skills learned through calculative formulas, unique skills have impenetrable formulas, making them impossible to copy. This monopoly keeps them exclusive to individuals or families. The boy calms everyone down, emphasizing that if he didn't know all this, he wouldn't have come here in the first place. The lady immediately tells her angry manager to calm down, assuring him they won't take long to hear him out. She asks if he can actually pull off what he claims, to which the boy confidently agrees. We also learn that due to the penalty of her unique skill, sacrifice, she needs a higher or equal-ranked skill to heal herself. Ironically, she can't use her own skill on herself, because her sacrifice skill requires a sacrifice to the gods, preventing her from healing her own body. Finally, the lady gives him the green light to proceed. As she glows with her magic, Jaehyun feels ecstatic and immediately copies her ability. The system window pops up, asking if he wants to register the new skill, Sacrifice, into the blank card. Confidently, the boy says yes. Once he finishes copying, he activates his sacrifice skill, demonstrating its power by summoning it into the palm of his hand, leaving both of them shocked at the sight. Our hero decides to proceed with negotiations before healing her. But first, let's check the stats of this skill. The first benefit is that it creates a wave of healing to heal multiple allies and removes debuffs. Secondly, when used on undead monsters, it transforms into the attack skill called Judgment of Light. Lastly, since the skill was copied using a blank card, there are no inherited penalties whatsoever. So then, the lady asks what he would want from her guild. While she outwardly states this, but inwardly she feels confident that dealing with this middle schooler will be a breeze, especially since she's the representative of the Lotus Guild. The boy gets straight to the point, asking her to sponsor him. The lady chuckles, asking if he wants her sponsorship just to help him grow as a raider. Without hesitation, he confirms this, explaining that it's his big dream and that he needs the resources, connections, and support that come with sponsorship to become stronger. Impressed by his determination and skills, the lady readily agrees to sponsor him, but she places a condition. As soon as our hero hears this, he's quite amazed to see that, even though she's not in a strong position to negotiate, she remains bold in her stance. The lady reveals that her disease is a personal problem and has nothing to do with the Lotus Guild. What our hero wants is not entirely in her hands. He's asking for the support of the entire guild, which doesn't have any reason to favor him. Our hero tells her to lay out her conditions. If they make sense to him, he'll decide whether or not to shake hands with her. His mind races with all kinds of possibilities she might be plotting, but she surprises him by simply asking if he can join the Lotus Guild. The boy immediately asks if she's serious about recruiting him. The lady then lists several reasons for recruiting him. Firstly, he uncovered the classified information about the representative of the Lotus Guild's disease, which only a few knew about, showcasing exceptional information-gathering abilities. Secondly, he flawlessly copied her sacrifice skill, something she's never seen before, and she's curious to see if there's anyone else like him in the world who can do the same. The boy feels awkward hearing this, knowing he can't tell her he only knew about her disease because he regressed in time, and he can only copy skills thanks to his cheat system. The lady then leans in uncomfortably close to him and states the third reason for recruiting him into the guild, which is that despite being a middle schooler, our boy didn't even flinch when facing off against the representative of the Lotus Guild, and she likes his guts he just showcased. In his past, the Lotus Guild collapsed soon after her death. Now that she's here, he's pretty sure joining the guild would level him up quickly. But he wonders how they can contract since he's a minor, and contracting with underage people is illegal. With a smile, the lady reminds him about the right of priority negotiation. It turns out our hero does know about it. The right of priority negotiation is a guild's privilege to support the growth of a raider trainee who hasn't yet reached adulthood. Once they come of age, that guild has the right to make a contract with the trainee before any other guild can. Jaehyun never thought he'd be using a perk like this, especially after getting rejected by even the crummiest guilds back in the day. The lady seems to have taken a liking to our hero, and the boy sits up from his seat, saying he'll heal her right away. Though her offer is a no-brainer, he decides to focus on the treatment first before finally accepting her terms. While he stands right over her head, the manager doesn't seem thrilled about our hero healing her. Although he no longer doubts our boy after witnessing his powers firsthand, he's still cautious, fearing our hero might use something cursed or shady, especially since even top doctors failed to cure her. Shortly after, the lady feels magically healed, sensing the changes inside her. The manager is in absolute shock and amazement. He wastes no time bowing his head before our hero, apologizing with utmost respect for ever doubting him. Our hero just shrugged it off, saying it was understandable to doubt a kid's words. But the manager kept on apologizing, feeling bad for his rude behavior earlier. Jaehyun tells the lady that everything's done, and she can move around freely now. As soon as she stands up, she walks to the window and uses her magic to light up the whole room. Tears fill her eyes as she realizes her symptoms are completely gone. She expresses her gratitude for this miracle and asks if he'll face any penalties for healing her, but we know penalties don't apply to his copied skill. My guy assures her with a smile that she can repay him when the time comes, and the lady gladly agrees. She then brings out her card and tells him to think about the offer. She promises to do her best to make sure it works out in his favor. The boy then tells them there's something he wants to ask. The next day, the manager escorts him to a low-rank dungeon owned by the Lotus Guild. As you can guess, he's there to level up his skills, aiming to become an ace at Mills Academy. The guild makes sure they've got all the essentials ready for him, and even loans him some spare gear meant for guild members. But the manager warns him going alone into the dungeon could be risky, asking why he insists on soloing it. Jaehyun just says he wants to grind. As a safety net, the manager hands him a stone, saying it's a warp stone. If he breaks it, he'll teleport outside the dungeon gate. It's a little thanks for how he treated the lady, and the boy happily takes it. He proceeds to enter the dungeon, and as soon as he steps inside, he is sure that it's just an E-rank dungeon, not something to worry about. The manager urges him to warp out quickly if danger appears, to which he nods in assurance. Deep inside, though, he suddenly finds his mouth covered by unexpected hands, and the system indicates he's now in Helheim's Field of the Dead. The scene transitions to the director Yu Seong-in office. There we see the lady deep in thought regarding our hero. She's concerned that even in an E-rank dungeon, a newcomer clearing it alone is nearly impossible, regardless of how skilled they are. However, she can tell this kid isn't your average Joe. He didn't just pick this gate on a whim, so she grins and decides to see where he's going with this. Suddenly, there's a knock on the door, and after getting permission from the director, a lady enters. The director asks about the matter she requested updates on, and the other lady hands her the files, explaining it's our hero's profile. As the director flips through the pages, she's shocked to read that he aspires to be a martial artist, which makes no sense to her considering his magical capabilities. A heavy silence falls over the room as the lady who brought the reports also has no clue how someone can be so talented, but she assures the directory that the reports are accurate unless there are not any mechanical errors. Taking a peek ourselves, we see that our guy's aptitude for magic is at 97%. Shortly after, the director calls his manager Appa and instructs him to call her immediately once our hero is out of the dungeon. She's eager to witness our hero's talents with her own eyes. Meanwhile, our boy finds himself falling into the unknown realm known as the Field of the Dead, hitting his ass on the ground hard upon landing. As he looks around, he realizes he's in a graveyard and struggles to stand up, coughing harshly. Before he can make sense of his surroundings, an undead creature appears. Wasting no time, it aims its bow at our hero and shoots an arrow at him. Reacting too slowly, he ends up with a nasty cut across his face. Another monster appears, ready to strike our hero down. He's unsure if it's laced with paralysis poison, which annoys him greatly. He quickly heals himself using his fancy sacrifice skill. Suddenly, more zombies emerge, and he finds himself surrounded by black souls hovering above in the air. They immediately start attacking and shooting at him. But this time, Jaehyun grabs an arrow with his bare hands and breaks it by clenching his fist, thoroughly annoyed by their pesky attempts. Meanwhile, Kim Yoo-jung stares at the autograph she received from the director, and she is also feeling totally annoyed at our hero for leaving her alone, despite knowing she has a terrible sense of direction. She's getting more and more annoyed by his unpredictable moves. He used to avoid crowds, but suddenly he's agreeing to tag along with her. He never used to ditch her like this before, always making sure she wasn't left hanging, but this time, he left her high and dry down there alone. And now he's switching to magic class, even though he's always dreamed of martial arts. She just can't wrap her head around his sudden change because she knows he's usually thoughtful and careful, not someone who acts without a good reason. Suddenly, she starts texting him again, giving him a piece of her mind about leaving her alone that day. Meanwhile, back in the dungeon, Jaehyun's face pales as he freaks out at the sight of ghosts right in front of him. To make matters worse, they're far more organized than your typical monster horde. He decides to rely on an item, a staff forged by a blacksmith from the Lotus Guild. Before we delve deeper, we learn that this dungeon, Helheimer, is the realm of the dead overseen by Loki's daughter, Hel. It's one of the 9 worlds in Norse mythology, created after the 7 realms excluding Midgard and Asgard. These worlds include Niflheimer, the world of fog and ice; Muspelheimer, the world of flames; Jotunheimer, the world of giants; Alfheimer, the world of elves; Svartalfheimer, the world of dark elves; Vanaheimer, the world of the Vanir gods; and the coldest and darkest of all, Niflheimer, where Helheimer exists alongside it. This place is a total nightmare for newbies, but our hero's pumped to test his skills. He decides to whip out Goddess Nora's sacrifice skill. When he uses it on dead monsters, bam! It transforms into this epic area of effect attack called Judgment of Light. The monster jumps him right away, but our hero's quick to smack it down with his wand, sending the monster flung backward. He gears up with Blitzfire and blasts the monster to smithereens, bagging 70 XP for knocking out the Death Wraith. He keeps up the momentum, chaining his blitz moves to rock the stage with his skills. Every monster he takes down brings a bigger grin to his face as the XP rolls in. Next up, he leaps at another undead who is using arrows and smacks it hard on the noggin. Boom! His wand cracks in half, but he still manages to take down the monster. His face goes pale seeing his wand broken, realizing he wasn't exactly fighting like a mage after all, and his foolishness has caused him to lose a weapon. So, he gets serious and activates his sacrifice skill. The holy judgment of light comes crashing down on the monsters, burning them to a crisp. Once those undead are turned into ashes, he racks up some valuable experience points along the way, and decides to take a breather in the settling haze. He heals himself to restore his powers, and he is relieved to have made it out alive. He's learned a valuable lesson, not to overestimate his skills. Even though divine judgment saved him this time, he might not be so lucky next time. In any case, he decides to leave the place, but he soon realizes he has no clue how to get outside. He sighs and decides to use the warp stone, but before he can, a terrifying aura of mana creeps over him from behind. When he looks back, there's nothing there. Suddenly, he senses something approaching, and in the next moment, he feels himself getting choked. He raises his busted wand and jabs it into his own thigh. Not quite sure why he's hurting himself, but he is making damn sure not to let out a single scream to draw any unwanted company. Little does he know, there's this hideous monstrosity lurking right behind him. Right on cue, the system chimes in, revealing that the dungeon boss, Nightshade, has shown up, and the gap in levels between our hero and this boss is like night and day. The system practically screams at him to bolt out of the dungeon as soon as possible. He fumbles for his teleportation stone, but before he can grab it, the monster pounces from behind, sending the stone tumbling from his hands as he hits the nearby wall and starts coughing up blood. His HP also takes a nosedive. The system immediately tells him to use a healing item immediately, but looks like he does not have any time for that because the monster is already standing before him and immediately launches another attack. Just as he braces for the worst, the monster in front of him freezes solid, leaving him staring in disbelief, wondering what the heck just happened. That's when a woman's voice, echoes through the cavern. The woman appears divine, almost like a goddess. She commands the monster not to harm him, revealing that she herself brought him here as an important guest. This half-demon, half-angelic elf informs our hero that he is destined to be the adversary. Confused, the boy has no idea who this woman could be. The lady continues, expressing her belief that he was meant to effortlessly defeat this monster as the adversary. However, it seems she was mistaken, seeing him as just an average kid with moderate mana and abilities. She questions why Loki chose someone like him to be the adversary against the mighty Aesir gods. The boy struggles to remain conscious, his life slipping away from the loss of blood. He knows he can't afford to die here, not when he's been given a second chance to make things right. Seeing the determination in our hero's eyes, the lady acknowledges his resolve but states that he's still too weak to fulfill his role as the chosen adversary. She begins to choke him, warning that his end is near. If he doesn't grow stronger quickly, she threatens to end his life with her own hands. Recognizing his importance to them, she decides to grant him another chance. She urges him to become much stronger than he is now, to defeat the Nightshade monster easily. If he succeeds, she promises him a reward, but emphasizes that he must act quickly. And then, a system pops up with the first main quest, Hell's Trials. His main goal in this mission is to take down Nightshade within 2 months, and it looks like this mysterious lady is none other than Goddess Hel herself, Loki's daughter. If he nails this mission, then the Goddess Hel will personally give him her gift, but failure means death as the penalty. As those creepy hands start dragging him into the darkness, he loses sight of everything. And as the scene shifts, we see this blonde goddess we saw during his time regression, and she still appears to be saying something to our hero in this foreign language. Suddenly he awakens in the real world. As he stands up, he realizes that his injuries have been healed completely. Checking his window stats, he sees the same quest still hovering before him, which confirms that everything he felt back then was real, and the lady he encountered was indeed Hel, the goddess who rules over Helheimer, one of the 9 worlds of mythology. He's still clueless about this whole adversary thing, and he's heard something familiar already right after getting this new Nornir system. With a pile of unanswered questions looming over him, like why he regressed and what the heck this adversary stuff is, he knows one thing for sure: he's gotta level up fast. If what that goddess said holds water, the moment he stops getting stronger, he will be killed by that goddess. But hey, he chuckles to himself, at least he's got some daring tasks ahead. Still, he's got a long road ahead. He doesn't know how to fight as a mage, and he also lacks any basic spells to handle small fry. Pulling out his phone, he sees a call from the director summoning him. He tells her he'll swing by tomorrow and is ready to make the contract. The next day rolls around, and our hero steps into the Lotus Flower Guild. The manager leads him inside, and as they walk, he understands why they are giving him so much special treatment, because his mage aptitude is at 97% after all. Arriving at their destination, our hero brightens at the sight of the lady director, exuding confidence with her long hair and a presence that catches his eye. They exchange greetings warmly. She dives into the perks the guild is offering with the contract, and our hero enthusiastically confirms they're impressive. I mean, who wouldn't be thrilled? Alongside a stipend for living expenses, the guild provides him with an endless supply of B-rank items at no cost if they break. On top of that, he'll earn a substantial profit based on his contributions in the raids. These terms are usually reserved for top-notch A-grade raiders. Before signing the contract, he reveals a condition. The lady director warmly encourages him to speak his mind. He explains that it's only been a month since he transitioned from martial arts to magecraft, making him inexperienced in magic. Therefore, he requests to be personally trained by the director herself. The manager marvels at our hero's audacity to directly confront the prestigious director without hesitation. Meanwhile, the boy asks if she agrees to his condition before signing the priority negotiation contract with the Lotus Guild. She chuckles at his interesting request and agrees to his terms. He thanks her, and she teasingly reminds him she's already got her eye on his potential and can't wait to see it in action. She presses him to display his talent first, if he's comfortable enough. Of course, our hero had already anticipated this. After all, it's the main reason the Lotus Guild is interested in him. He immediately asks what he should do to demonstrate his power. The lady simply clicks her fingers, and blue energy begins to manifest behind her, forming a mana cube. and she tells him to endure it. The boy is absolutely baffled by the sight of the mana cube. The lady quickly reminds him that a talented individual should be able to manage at least this much if he's going to sign the priority negotiation contract with her Lotus Guild. You see, a mana cube is a test that B rank and above mages use to gauge their mana sensitivity. But there's no way someone like our hero wouldn't be overwhelmed by it, as only 7% of awakened mages can endure it. The boy asks the lady if she's trying to scare him off. She reassures him that even if he fails, it won't affect their priority negotiation and they'll still form the contract. With no way out, our hero bites the bullet and steps forward. The director nods to her manager to prepare, who expresses concern about her decision since even current mage raiders struggle with the cube. The lady reaffirms that our hero isn't your average guy, so it's worth a shot. Reluctantly, the director nods and activates the cube. Once the mana cube is activated, the boy hesitates before the overwhelming energy. The lady behind him encourages him to step in, and finally, he gathers the courage to enter. As soon as he's inside the mana cube, the manager remains visibly anxious, seeing him as just a young kid. The lady reassures her that he can handle it, confidently expressing trust in her intuition that he won't fail. Inside, our hero feels like he's drifting in a vast ocean made of mana. Surprisingly, he can breathe normally, alleviating his earlier concerns about getting sick from prolonged exposure to thick mana, which could even lead to death during the test. He searches for a way out, recalling that the only escape from the mana cube is finding the singular door connected to the outer world among countless whirlpools. He gathers his resolve, searching for a way out within the mana cube. Suddenly he senses something unusual, an unassuming crystal tucked away, pulsating with immense magical power, as if containing the entire essence of the great ocean of mana. Meanwhile, the manager remains anxious while the lady continues to chuckle. Anxiously, the manager asks how long it typically takes. The lady mentions the fastest exit from the cube is 40 minutes, a record high. Upon hearing this, the manager bluntly states it'll either end in our hero's death or he'll set a new world record. The lady agrees, albeit confidently expecting the latter outcome. Their eyes widen as they witness the crystal starting to fracture. Shocked, the manager grabs his phone and realizes only 10 minutes have passed since our hero entered. While the spectators anticipate what's happening inside, our hero senses the immense power of the crystal and grins, thinking that breaking it might just be his ticket out. With determination, he swims towards the stone, clenches it tightly in his fist, and shatters it into pieces in a swift motion. As cracks begin to spread around him, a system notification reveals that he has acquired a passive skill called Crystal of Mana Operation. Suddenly, the mana cube collapses, leaving both spectators in a mix of terror and awe. This kind of test typically takes an hour for an S-rank player, but our guy smashed through it in just 26 minutes, shattering the record held by the European Union's Camilla, a genius mage noted in the World Guinness at 36 minutes. The manager immediately walks forward, shaking our hero's hand enthusiastically and showering him with praise. The lady also joins in, but her curiosity is piqued about how he managed to shatter the cube so quickly. The boy explains that he found a crystal inside the cube and broke it. The lady is shocked to hear this because a mana cube crystal contains all the magic power within the cube, and it's incredibly rare for anyone, especially a regular awakened person, to find or break it. The fact that our hero not only found it, but shattered it, suggests that his mana capacity exceeds that of the entire cube. She bursts into a moment of happiness and immediately vows to help him become the greatest mage in the world. The scene transitions back to Lady Kim Yoo-jung, who is visibly upset that Jae-hyun is still late. Our hero's mother stands beside Kim Yoo-jung, confirming that he's indeed late and not answering calls either. Suddenly, a familiar flashy Rolls-Royce grabs both ladies' attention. They're stunned to see our hero stepping out of such an expensive car, completely blowing them away. How could he afford something like that? Jae-hyun immediately notices the ladies and waves happily. While his mother is anxious, concerned if her son is involved in something shady, Lady Kim is livid to see him lounging around. Once they're settled in the room, the girl jumps straight to demanding answers, asking why he switched to magic class. Our hero casually explains that martial arts just wasn't cutting it for him anymore, and he already filled out all the paperwork for the magic track. She keeps pushing for more details about his decision, but he flips the script and asks why she's dropped by. He then asks if her parents are off at work, to which she nods, explaining that's why she's crashing for the night with our hero's mom's blessing. We then learn that her folks work in a monster processing plant, shipping creatures abroad, which keeps them moving. And whenever she's left alone, she tends to hang out with him, since our hero's mother is a good friend of her parents. Moving forward, the boy asks her to teach him the theories of magic now that he's in the magic class. The girl demands to know what she'll get in return. Reluctantly, the boy asks what she wants. The girl admits she doesn't have anything specific in mind at the moment. After thinking for a bit, she decides that he must grant her one wish. The boy agrees but adds a condition. Her wish must be made within a year, or it expires. The girl agrees, somewhat annoyed, while the boy privately bets that she'll likely forget about it within a year. Teasingly, the boy asks what kind of wish she might have in mind, but the girl, now visibly annoyed, tells him to shut his yapping. The lady gets so mad that while she was holding to that pillow, I thought that she is squeezing her boobs hard. Did you get the same kind of illusion, or it is just me? Let me know in the comments. As they continue their banter, their mother calls them to dinner, but they ignore her, caught up in their playful pillow fight. Observing their chemistry, it wouldn't surprise me if the girl jokingly tells him to marry her as her wish. Meanwhile, in the forest, violent ravens float above in the air, and a man clad in black easily dispatches the monsters with his sword. Finally, we meet our hero's father, Min Seong-oh, who receives praise from the armored man for effortlessly clearing the dungeon. The man invites Min Seong-oh to join their guild, but our hero's father declines, preferring to stay solo. The armored guy practically begs our father to join, promising all sorts of respect from the Scarlet Guild. But the man in black just scoffs and calls him stubborn. Then, out of nowhere, the father starts summoning these weird chain things, and he also yaps about humans being greedy like he's giving a lecture. He vanishes into thin air, leaving the armored guy scratching his head. After this spooky encounter with this killer dad, who, let's face it, looks younger than our hero himself, we're back to the director, who's giving a lecture to Jae-hyun for his first magic class. The lady decides to dive right into sparring and challenges him to take a swing at her. The boy hesitates but realizes he has no choice. He lets out a sigh and carefully takes his stance, ensuring there are no openings. Drawing on his martial arts knowledge, he throws a punch aimed at her, expecting a reaction. The lady stands there grinning, and the impact of his blow creates such a massive disturbance that everything gets obscured in a cloud of dust. As the dust settles, our hero sees his punch effortlessly caught by the lady, who handles it like it's nothing, leaving him utterly terrified. She grins confidently, and the boy quickly retreats to a safer distance. Seems he underestimated her just because she's a healer. He's now certain she's got the power of an S-rank raider. After that punch, she breaks down his moves, noting the martial artist's habits in his stance and attack. She points out that mages typically don't charge in like that to attack. The director then asks him if he knows the difference between martial arts and magic. The boy says martial arts is all about up-close fighting with swords and stuff, while magic is more about blasting from a distance. She nods and adds that magic classes are about weakening enemies from afar, while martial arts finish them off face to face. Then she tells him to get ready because she's going to attack him to show him what mage combat is really like. She assures him she can heal him if things get messy. He's a bit nervous but ready. The lady gathers energy at her fingertip and shoots out this intense laser beam of energy. The boy quickly rolls to safety as the lady tells him it's his turn to attack. He activates his blitz chain power and unleashes lightning arrows straight at her. There's a huge explosion when the chains hit their mark, but the lady stands there without a scratch. She's surprised he has an A-rank skill but reminds him it's only good if he hits the target. Then, she counters with her own arrow aimed right at his face. He freaks out and ends up taking the arrow straight. Even though he's battered head to toe, he stays standing, impressing the lady with his resilience. But then she decides to go all out, throwing a barrage of blue lightning bolts at him. This time, he immediately uses his absolute calculator skill, and the magic disintegrates, leaving the lady shocked. She can't believe he reversed her attack and neutralized it in such a short time. The lady is once again amazed and asks him if there are any more surprises he's hiding. Our hero just tells her to find out for herself, and with that challenge, the ground right in front of her starts crackling with intense energy. She takes a direct hit, but manages to deflect it with her hand, though her hand trembles from the impact. She's absolutely baffled at how he managed to cast this attack so fast. Meanwhile, he sends a barrage of arrows her way, but she quickly throws up a shield to protect herself. She's curious why he's casting magic without chanting, as casting for a mage typically requires a deliberate process. Experienced mages can reduce the chant for lower-powered spells, but each of his attacks is just as potent, making her doubt he's casting without uttering a single word. On the flip side, our hero's almost wiped out and can't muster enough mana to keep attacking, so he just blurts out that she's a monster for being so resilient. The lady strolls up to him with this smirk, saying he's an interesting kid with loads of potential. But she points out he's still green, catches him off guard, and knocks him to the ground just like that. He's clueless about how it happened, while she just chalks it up to her years of experience. Thinking about his skills, she gives him props for his melee combat game and how he can cast magic without a hitch. She's impressed by his knack for unraveling spells with that reverse calculation trick, thinking he could totally create a one-of-a-kind fighting style. She tells him she's taking him under her wing from now on, officially making herself his teacher. Apparently, he's the first lucky duck to get this kind of VIP treatment of becoming her student. The next scene shows our hero sitting melancholically, lost in thought. His friend snaps him out of his daydreaming with a disdainful aura, and he clicks his tongue, telling her he's listening. It seems she's been munching on ice cream ever since she arrived, which our hero bought for her as a tuition fee. He asks if she's not full yet, to which she replies she could eat it all day, urging him to focus on his studies. As she continues teaching him about magic, the system window reveals that his knowledge of magic has increased, and his efficiency in using magic has risen by 5%. The boy is tired of these persistent notifications. Every time he learns something new, they start to annoy him. The system feels like it's pushing him to grow constantly. It seems even Lady Kim finds it pretty strange how quickly he's picking things up. He's learned more in 2 days than most people would in 2 months. But the boy downplays it, saying there's nothing surprising since she herself can memorize forms just by looking at them. This annoying girl gets even more irritated and demands our hero to call her teacher. Her annoyance seems to stem from the fact that he's learning everything so fast, despite her being in the magic field much longer than him. She's worried he's going to surpass her sooner than later at this rate. The boy sighs and reluctantly calls her teacher, reminding her that he surely has natural talent in the field of magic, so of course he is learning faster. But let's face it, he's putting in every effort to learn magic as quickly as possible because he doesn't want to get screwed over by Goddess Hell. The lady then reminds him that when he said he was going into martial arts, she was really surprised. And she now starts yelling at him for his decision he made back then, asking why he thought of abandoning the magic field even though it was suited for him. While Yoo-jung and Jae-hyun are having their study session, Jae-hyun sees the vision of a man's face that is linked to the events that happened in his past life. Yoo-jung pulls him out of his daydreaming by asking him if he's training for the practical exam in his own time, and he affirms that a different teacher is helping him train his practical. He wonders what the vision he just saw was and is uncertain if it was just his imagination. However, he also recalls that Hell gave him 2 months to defeat the Nightshade, so he pushes the thoughts out of his mind because it's not the time to get distracted. Our boy considers other beneficial things, like his hopes that the pill he's working on becomes a big help to raiders across the world and can help him overcome this wall in his abilities. Meanwhile, in the Lotus Guild Training Center, Park Sung-jae, the manager, supervises some of the raiders who are training and corrects some of the mistakes they're making. When he spots the guild master, Seongun, he makes a comment to her about how the trainees aren't bad for newbies and how the average rank has almost gone up from last year. But he's surprised to notice she wasn't listening. When she realizes he was talking to her, Seongun apologizes, and the manager teases her by saying she's thinking about Jae-hyun, and she affirms his suspicions. Suddenly, the manager mentions that he recalls that several other raiders have tried to learn the thing that she wants to teach Jae-hyun and have all failed. However, Seongun reminds the manager that he also saw Jae-hyun's peculiar talent. It would have been believable to say that Jae-hyun was a veteran because he didn't make a single unnecessary movement. At this point, Guildmaster Seongun is certain that if another S-rank magician is to appear in the future, it will be Jae-hyun. Presently, she's still the only magician in the country who has become an S-rank. Even so, as a healer, her effectiveness in battle is a bit low. However, if Jae-hyun were to suddenly appear like a comet right now, it would shake up the whole magic world. Sometimes later, MC works on a mana enhancement pill. Like its name suggests, it's a pill that permanently increases the mana of the awakened who takes it, and it's an item that all magicians covet. While he's working, the mixture fails for the umpteenth time, and our boy throws away the spoon in anger. At this point, he's already used up 3 sets of the ingredients, and it seems like he'll blow up all his money if this continues. In the present of November 2020, no one knows how to make the mana enhancement pill just yet, because the pill won't be invented for another 5 years. Before returning to the past, the pill's recipe was shared by a world-class alchemist. As he published the recipe, the alchemist expressed how he hopes that the pill will be of great help to numerous raiders around the world. It seems to our boy that just keeping at it like this won't work, but he gets another idea of what might have a higher chance of working, and that is finding Lee Jae-sang, since he's the one who will invent the pill in 5 years' time. Even if he ends up unable to make the pill, creating a connection with that guy won't be a loss. Since Jae-sung is presently a senior who's currently a first year at Mills Academy, he has to go to Mills Academy to meet him. While he's out, Yoo-jung comes to see Jae-hyun, and she opens the door to find a pot that seems to be possessed by some demonic power and a disgusting sink. She immediately becomes worried that something bad happened and wonders if she should call the police as she looks at the disaster all over the house. Wielding a frying pan as a weapon, she looks around the terrifying wasteland. In the past, right as the Yggdrasil appeared and monsters started pouring out, there were a few people who established themselves the quickest. One of them was a man called Lee Jae-shin, also known as Quick Blade. When the first awakened vanished without a trace, Lee Jae-shin appeared as if to take over his mantle as the first S-rank raider in Korea. Lee Jae-sang, the person our boy is out to meet right now, is the youngest son of Lee Jae-hyun. When Jae-hyun reaches the transportation building, the attendant asks him where he would like to go, and he requests to take a portal to a place called Daegu. Daegu currently lay abandoned due to the monster outbreak, and it's a city where monsters poured out from all sides, and you had to worry about your life from the moment you stepped in. Shortly after, our boy gets close to the Mills Academy in Daegu and has to walk a bit more to get to the main entrance. When he gets in, he wonders where he could find Jae-sung. Although Jae-sung was in the combat department, he wasn't very talented. The probability of Jae-sung, who dislikes fighting, making use of Milas's combat facilities is very low, so Jae-hyun decides to look around the classrooms first. As he walks forward, he notices a crowd and walks up to see what they're looking at. When he forces his way through, he's hit by Jae-sung, who's thrown back by an attack from whoever is whooping his behind. Our boy helps Jae-sung up, and the kid apologizes for hitting him. Jae-hyun, however, doesn't reply to his apology, but only locks eyes on Jae-sung's opponent, who asks him who the heck he is, and if he has any business with Jae-sung, whom he calls a stutterer. Before he can talk, the bully places a hand on our boy's back and asks him if he's the brother of the stutterer. After all, they don't look one bit alike. But Jae-hyun doesn't bother giving any response to this shithead. However, the bully clarifies that they're having an important discussion and advises him to wait outside if he doesn't want to end up in a bad situation. Before the guy can finish his statement, our boy slaps away his hand. Finally, Jae-hyun tells the kid it would be best if he went to the nurse's office and asks if he can walk. But Jae-sung just stares at him in confusion. Annoyed, the bully steps forward and grabs Jae-hyun by his collar, calling him a bastard. The angry bully demands to know if he doesn't understand when spoken to nicely and asks him if he wants to die. However, our boy mentions that this is the second time someone is grabbing his collar, and he doesn't know why people keep doing that so often lately. He remembers his lessons with Yu-jung about having a clear image in his head, then calculating the magic formula, constructing the spell, and then executing it. As he recalls Seongun, the image our boy chooses is a beam of light that shoots out like an arrow. Suddenly, the system notifies him that the skill called Holy Arrow has been activated. Just by pointing his finger, our boy releases a blast of the holy arrow into the big guy's chest and throws him backward, even knocking out spit from his mouth. As the big guy screams in pain, Jae-sung watches in shock as he realizes this stranger just cast a spell without incanting. The other onlookers also wonder what the heck just happened, and they wonder how this guy was able to cast and how he was able to fire a holy arrow that broke the arm of a prospective warrior. As the students begin to chat that it's possible that the big guy is just weaker than he seems, the big guy becomes annoyed. If this goes on, his reputation is going to be destroyed, so he pledges not to let this bastard go without leaving a dent. As he holds on to his broken arm, he generates a sword. When Jae-sung notices it, he calls out to Jae-hyun to be careful, but the angry bully swings the sword to injure Jae-hyun. As the sword closes in on Jae-hyun's face, he remembers how Master Seongun had taught him how to create a barrier by evenly wrapping mana around his body, so attacks violently bounce off. He immediately activates his mana barrier skill, and the bully's huge sword bounces off like rubber until it swings out of his reach. A look of terror crosses the big guy's face, but he's unable to react quickly enough because our boy soon grabs his face and asks him if he's done with his tricks. As the bully attempts to call him a crazy bastard, Jae-hyun doesn't let the words fully come out of his mouth before he blasts a holy arrow into his face, violently knocking him backward and breaking his nose. A huge thud occurs as the bully crashes into the ground, and Jae-sung watches in awe as he wonders who this stranger is. When Jae-hyun eventually locks gazes with him, the kid shrieks in fear, but Jae-hyun only walks past him towards the unconscious bully, who's still enveloped in smoke. Jae-hyun crouches near him, and he's surprised by how good he got the guy. Soon after, our boy brings out a potion. He regrets having to use the potion he bought for this, but it can't be helped, so he pours it on the injured bully. Immediately, the bully's face completely heals up, and our boy is impressed by its effectiveness. Once that's done, he turns to Jae-sung, who's still pretty shaken up, and proposes that they get going to the nurse's office. As they head to the nurse's office, Jae-hyun stops when they reach somewhere where no one can hear them talk. Confused, Jae-sung stares at him, and he suspects that Jae-hyun came looking for him because he knows who he is. Eventually, he musters up the courage to ask Jae-hyun if his father sent him by any chance. Intrigued, Jae-hyun replies that his father didn't and asks how he would know who his father is, but it's clear that Jae-sung isn't buying it. Eventually, Jae-sung asks him why he came looking for him, so our boy informs him that he has a favor to ask. When Jae-hyun mentions that he would like him to make a certain pill, Jae-sung becomes shocked and states that he doesn't know how to make things like that. Confused, Jae-hyun tells him he's good at alchemy, and when he brings out the potion he used on the bully, he asks Jae-sung if he wasn't the one who sold the potion on the black market. Shocked, the kid wonders how on earth he found out, because there's no way he could have found his information from the black market. Jae-hyun knows what's on his mind. And truthfully, he's not wrong because the black market is a transaction system that completely hides the user's identity. The sale of items, product price, recipient, and everything else happens through the Ether system, so it can only be secure. Fortunately, the black market works normally with the Nornir system that Jae-hyun possesses, which made him able to buy this potion and made things much easier. Once more, Jae-hyun asks Jae-sung if he made the potion, and Jae-sung utterly denies it. But our boy immediately tells him he's not very good at lying. Eventually, Jae-hyun tells him he completely understands why he would like to hide it, but he explains that he doesn't have much time. Jae-sung recalls how he had listed the potions on the black market, and wonders if it was a mistake to register his potions on the black market. He hadn't thought that things would become like this because he had only done this to try to earn some money. He knows that he's going to die if his father finds out, so to stop that, he bows to Jae-hyun and pleads that he keep it a secret from other people. Eventually, Jae-hyun explains that he didn't tell him this to blackmail him, but he only needs an excellent alchemist that can help him make the elixir that he wants. After Jae-sung thinks about it for a while, he asks Jae-hyun who on earth he is, so our boy explains that he's a prospective student of Mila's academy and calls him senior. Eventually they both sit, and Jae-sung, who's still tense, requests that he tell him about the pill he wants to make. Our boy informs him that he wants to make a mana enhancement pill, a pill that permanently increases a raider's mana. Shocked, Jae-sung gets up and asks him if permanently increasing someone's mana is even possible. Jae-hyun tells him it is. Immediately the kid's engines begin running, and he wonders what kind of ingredients would be needed to create such an effect. As he begins to think of the things that could be needed for the mana pill, Jae-hyun is surprised to notice that the kid's aura has changed, and he's stopped stuttering. Apart from that, Jae-sung was able to guess most of the ingredients just from hearing the effects, which shows he's truly talented, and Jae-hyun decides that he has to win him over. Eventually, Jae-sung stops talking and concludes that it would be better to ask another alchemist since it's such a great elixir. But Jae-hyun refuses because he wants to ask him, and even promises to provide everything he needs. Although it's true that with the recipe, other alchemists might be able to create the pill, the one who possesses overwhelming, incomparable talent is Lee Jae-sung. Finally, he asks Jae-sung if he'll do this favor for him, and the kid agrees. Regardless, Jae-sung clarifies that he doesn't know if he'll succeed or not, so our boy tells him it's alright even if he fails. Confused, Jae-sung asks him if it's alright since he'll be the one taking the loss. So Jae-hyun assures him that he's investing because he thinks that he has the ability, and he admits some investments can result in failure. As Jae-hyun tells him he looks forward to working with him, tears fill up the kid's eyes because this is the first time that someone has ever believed in him like this. When Jae-hyun notices this, he's glad he's been able to make a connection with him. The next morning, while Jae-sung is alone in his room, he thinks about the events that had transpired just hours ago, and he wonders if he's even had anyone believe in him this much in his life. Because he's a coward, not as talented as his other siblings, and lost his mother early, he was eventually left alone and was unable to gain the approval of his father. So to him, it's odd that someone would trust him enough to tell him that it's alright to fail. The fact that he, who had nothing to show for himself, received such trust for the first time, reaches deep into his heart and makes him begin to cry. Meanwhile, Jae-hyun's main quest is to deal with Hell's trial by defeating Nightshade within the time limit and getting Hell's recognition. The mission comes with a reward of Hell's gift, and he had 2 months to fulfill the mission, with a penalty of death looming over his head if he fails. Presently, he has only 10 days and 23 hours to perform it. Sometime later, Jae-hyun goes to the training center to spar with Seongun, and he manages to dodge her blue lightning attacks. As he moves forward to close the gap between them, he's targeted by some blasts, but he creates a shield to protect himself. He quickly activates his own holy arrow attack and blasts her with it, but she's already covered up in a magic shield. However, she notices a crack in the shield, and she's surprised our boy has grown this strong already. After the smoke clears, both of them lock eyes with one another, as if at a cowboy standoff, until Jae-hyun starts to burn bright with yellowish streaks of lightning around his body as he activates his blitzchain skill. But Seongun looks quite ready for his attack. As they both prepare to attack, the manager steps in and tells them to wrap it up because their time is up and they've both worked hard today as well. The manager is surprised that the training hall made with arc metal, which takes a significant amount of strength to create even a little of, has been destroyed by their sparring session. If he hadn't stopped them in the middle, the hall would have been obliterated. While they're resting, Seongun tells our boy that he's grown strong at a truly unbelievable rate. Apparently, he can cast more spells now, and his strength is now ridiculously high. Suddenly, she asks him if he's studying the theory separately, so he affirms that he's learning it from a friend. Excited, Seongun declares that it's better than she expected, because she was worried since she couldn't help him with the theory too. She comments that it seems like Jae-hyun has an intelligent friend, and he reluctantly agrees she is. But he considers how the real problem is Yoo-jung's weird-ass personality. Before they leave, Songgun reminds Jae-hyun that he had said he wanted to try raiding a dungeon again, and he affirms that he wants to test out the effectiveness of the training thus far. Because of that, Seongun believes that the E-rank dungeon that he entered should be a breeze with his current skills, so she asks him to do his best. The only issue is that it's not an E-rank dungeon he entered, but a C-rank one where he encountered Hell and Nightshade. He wonders if he can defeat a C-rank boss monster alone, but he decides not to worry too much about it since he's prepared well enough and he can only focus on the battle. Sometime later, Jae-hyun goes to see Jae-sang, who meets him with the pill he's worked hard to create. Soon after, Jae-hyun ingests the mana enhancement pill, and his magic stat increases by 15, and the unbelievable effects shock him. Alchemy is fundamentally a profound and difficult science. Even when creating the same item, its effect could differ greatly depending on the skills of the alchemist. If Jae-hyun had taken the ingredients to a different alchemist, they probably wouldn't have been able to give him an item that could even increase his magic stat by 5. Eventually, our boy smiles and reminds Jae-sang that he's truly talented, but Jae-sang says it's because he could believe in him, and he thanks him. Shortly after, our boy takes his leave, and he believes he's ready to defeat Nightshade the next day. Meanwhile, Hell speaks with her dragon Garmer and informs him that it seems that they'll be receiving a delightful guest that day. With 9 days and 22 hours remaining on the timer, he has to clear the dungeon. Our boy returns to the gate of the dungeon. He's given a complete probationary Valkyrie set, with which he gains a passive skill called Mana Plundering. Soon after, he enters the dungeon, and the portal system informs him that he'll be transported to Helheim's Land of the Dead because of the Nornir system he possesses. He falls through the portal and finally lands in the Land of the Dead. If he defeats Nightshade, he'll be able to meet Hell again. Suddenly, he hears a voice behind him refer to him as the adversary, mentioning Loki and Nornir. Soon after, the monster speaking to him fires arrows at him, but our boy protects himself with a magic barrier. As he turns back, he notices several monsters coming out of the ground, and he recalls how Seongjun had told him that what she wants to teach him is the combat style of a battle mage. These battle mages are also called swordsmen by warriors, and it's a hybrid combat style that uses both magic and physical attacks. But until now, no one has managed it. As Jae-hyun turns back to blast the monsters behind him with holy arrows, he considers how this fighting method is not as powerful as being a long-distance magician, and is lacking compared to a close-distance warrior. As he pummels one monster into the ground, he realizes the fighting style is in an awkward position because it specializes in neither, but Seongjun seems to believe that it's going to be a different story for him. He soon begins to destroy the monsters. Meanwhile, while manager Sungjae is guarding the entrance of the dungeon, he senses that someone else is there, and he recalls that he didn't get a report that someone else would be coming here. He immediately wields his sword as a red car rushes towards him. When the driver parks, a woman who recognizes him as senior mentions that it was rather hard to find him. When Sungjae realizes it's an old acquaintance named Yeonju, he stows away his sword, and he asks her what she's doing here, and about her guild. She explains that she's on the job right now too, and that she figured she'd see him again while taking care of some work for the guild, but she had checked at the Manhwa guild and couldn't find him. However, manager Sungjae wonders what nonsense she's spouting, especially since Yeonju hasn't contacted him even once since they graduated from college. Eventually, he replies that it's nice to see her after so long, but he considers that she isn't someone who would come to a remote place like this just to see him. As she steps forward, Yeonju asks her senior if he's managing this dungeon, but he informs her that it isn't something an outsider should concern themselves with. Regardless, she keeps speaking and mentions that managing dungeons is usually not a part of his responsibilities, and asks if he got demoted. When he doesn't answer, she mentions that she was curious to know if the rumor that Guildmaster Seongun is sick is true. Manager Sungjae's face becomes grim, and he informs her that it's obviously just a rumor. When he asks her where she heard something like that, she comments that there are plenty of listening ears, and that their curator guild has a lot of them. Intrigued, manager Sungjae wonders if she's saying that they have spies in their guild, so he thanks her for letting him know and informs her he'll deal with that. When he grows impatient, he asks her if that's all because he probably has to head back and start the cleanup now, so she also asks him if he knows a kid named Min Jae-hyun. The question alarms manager Sungjae, and Yeonju mentions that this kid has been visiting Manhwa Guild and meeting Guildmaster Yu Songun quite often, so she wants to ask if he knows the reason for it. Confused, manager Sungjae informs her that he doesn't think that is something an outsider should care about either. Eventually, Yeonju sighs and walks away. As she leaves, she informs him that she didn't expect him to tell her anything because she knows how inflexible he is. But the reason she came all this way is because she should at least pretend to do something deserving of her salary at the guild. Eventually, she gets into her car and drives off. Meanwhile, in the dungeon, our boy piles up a lot of monster corpses and sits on them. Soon after, the dungeon boss, Nightshade, appears, and our boy tells the monster that it's been a while. Nightshade's body burns in an eerie, bright red, and the monster soon lunges forward, causing our boy to jump into the air as he aims his holy arrows at the monster. While midair, he fires the arrows down into the monster's eyes and mouth, destabilizing it for a while before he lands back on the ground. The monster doesn't seem to be injured and removes its hand from its face, unveiling its bright red, eerie eyes. It releases several blasts of energy towards our boy, who spots them and quickly calculates the place to step to avoid the incoming attack. He successfully dodges the attack, and when he gets right in front of the monster, it releases another onslaught of destructive energy, which our boy still dog does. Shortly after, our boy asks it if it's now flustered because things aren't going its way. Jaehyun activates his lightning chain, and he directs the chains at Nightshade, who manages to knock away the anchor of the chains. However, our boy redirects the chain's anchor and wraps the monster's midsection with the chain. Due to the monster's violent reaction, our boy decides that this attack is still not enough to subdue it, so he rains down several holy arrows and goes right for its eyes. The resulting attack is quite painful and causes blood to ooze out of the monster's face. Regardless, Nightshade refuses to go down easy and continues to thrash around until it breaks itself free of the lightning chains. Soon after, the system warns Jaehyun that the boss monster has entered a berserk state, and its strength has increased by 1.5 times, and so has its dexterity. This isn't good news to Jaehyun, and as if that's not enough, he's told that something called the stigma of death has been placed on him, and he will receive the penalty of sudden death if the stigma is not removed within 10 minutes. The condition for removal is defeating Nightshade, and our boy wonders what this sudden death penalty is since he's never heard of it before. Oddly, the system also informs him that his absolute calculation skill, also known as universal derivation, has been activated. Still confused, Jaehyun suspects that hell has something to do with this, so he calls out to her and asks how she can just interfere like this. Instead of an answer, the system displays the 10-minute countdown, and he's already down by 30 seconds. With the stigma still on him, our boy runs towards the berserk monster, but he's shocked when Nightshade begins to run away from him. Jaehyun quickly fires a holy arrow blast at the monster's face and creates a hole in it before it can get too far away. The timer continues to count down to 8 minutes and 32 seconds, and a smile develops on Nightshade's face. It seems to know that it will win as long as it prolongs the fight, so Jaehyun decides to use a wide area skill that it can't dodge. As he's about to activate the attack, Nightshade captivates him with its gaze, and it breaks our boy's concentration and casting. The system informs him that he has failed to resist and has temporarily acquired a fear debuff that weakens his abilities. While he's still shocked at what's going on, Nightshade strikes him. After he's struck, the system displays that the fear debuff has disappeared, but Jaehyun is coughing out blood at this point. However, he manages to find his footing and isn't knocked off his feet by the attack. At this point, the time remaining until the penalty is 7 minutes and 11 seconds. Jaehyun expects the monsters to use the same attack on him, and when it doesn't, he wonders if it's unable to use such spells that limit his movements continuously. Jaehyun isn't certain, and he's worried that the monster might interfere again if it sees him trying to cast Light's Judgment, which will cause him to use up his mana and end up incapacitated. He has to think of another way, and he recalls that the monster got hit in the eye a while ago, and its line of sight is probably narrower than before. He decides to activate his Wind Boost skill to first get rid of the rest of the monster's sight. After using a blast of wind to block the monster's sight, the smoke soon clears, and our boy is seen wielding a light-type magic in his hand, just like he had planned. He teases the monster for thinking he would have run blindly towards it and calls it gullible as he activates his flash bomb skill. The flash bomb is soon triggered, releasing an explosion of bright light that covers the entire field and releases several lightning chains towards Nightshade. Amidst the explosion, our boy is relieved that he finally got the freaking bastard. As the monster is burned up by the explosion, it screeches in pain. Out of nowhere, our boy notices some of the undead monsters he faced earlier behind him. He activates his sacrifice skill, and the system declares that sacrifice has changed into an attack skill, allowing him to use his Light's Judgment skill. With only 3 minutes and 46 seconds on the timer, our boy begins to rain blasts of light from the sky onto the field. In the frenzy, the timer goes down to a few seconds until only just 10 seconds are left. As we count down to 6 seconds, our boy fixes his gaze on Nightshade's crumbling body, and he pats himself on the back for having done it. As the timer reaches 3 seconds, the system declares that he's defeated the dungeon boss and has obtained the title of one who has overcome the first trial. Meanwhile, Hell, who had been watching the whole thing, exclaims that it seems there was a reason behind Jaehyun being chosen. She stretches forth her hand and asks the boy to come to her temple. After defeating the dungeon boss, the stigma of death disappears, and our boy receives some experience points, a crafting item called Nightshade's Core, as well as an equipment item called Shadow Armor. He's also told that he's gained 3 levels and has obtained the title of the one who has overcome the first trial. After checking his qualifications, the system informs him that Hell is calling on him to come to her temple. Moments later, he's transported in front of a huge entrance that leads into Hell's temple. At the entrance, he sees a huge monster burst out of the darkness towards him. Our boy leaps backward due to fear, but Hell calls out to the monster, named Garmer, and asks it to show their guest in. Jaehyun follows Garmer into the temple, and he calls out to Hell. Hell tells him that she didn't expect him to have succeeded, and she congratulates him for overcoming the trial she gave him, referring to him as the child born with the fate of the adversary. Confused, our boy asks the reason she gave him the Nornir system and made him go through a trial like this. But Hell only smiles as she watches him, then states that he has to grow as the adversary. Still confused, Jaehyun asks why he was the one specifically chosen to be the adversary, so she adds that it's because he was born with that fate from the very beginning. Apparently, he's destined to be the adversary to the great Aesir and to become the one who will kill the great god, Odin. She explains that this is what Loki and the rest of them expect from him. When Jaehyun says he doesn't understand, Hell informs him there's no need to understand, because they had no hope of it happening in the first place. When Jaehyun becomes angered by her pointless answers, she places a finger on his lips and states that he must feel wronged because he probably cannot comprehend why he would have to be controlled by the gods. As she moves closer to him, as if to enclose her lips upon his, she reminds him that this does not only concern the gods who are against the Aesir. While speaking, she pushes him into a portal behind him and informs him that the world is heading to its end, and Odin wishes to have everything under his control. To stop this, the strength of the prophesied adversary is needed. As our boy falls through the portal, he protests that she shouldn't let him go because he still has more questions to ask. But Hell only tells him to grow strong, because she looks forward to the day they meet again. After Jaehyun is transported away, Hell turns to someone who is standing nearby and asks how long he plans to continue watching, since she doesn't remember inviting him there. Shortly after, Jaehyun falls to the ground in the real world, and he's annoyed that he was unable to get any real answers. As he sulks, the system informs him that he has received Hell's gift, which is a passive skill called Hell's Blessing that makes all abnormal inflictions on him invalidated. Meanwhile, the old man who was spying on Hell asks her to forgive his discourtesy because he just couldn't resist when he heard that Hell was meeting with the boy. He asks Hell how she feels after meeting the boy in person, and she replies that she doesn't know because it's too early to decide, especially since the adversary has only taken his first step forward. She admits that the growth of the adversary was to a greater extent than she expected, and he won despite the stigma she gave him and stood before her in the end, which is a fortunate miscalculation on her end. The old man is relieved that the boy is doing a good job. Eventually, Hell asks him what he wants because she knows he has more to say to her, referring to him as Mimir, a figure in Norse mythology. Mimir, however, claims he doesn't know what she means, and the goddess accuses him of trying to feign ignorance till the end. As she continues to speak, Mimir asks her to calm down and admits that it seems he can't deceive her after all. Hell further states that the adversary's left eye is without a doubt the one Odin had sacrificed at the Well of Wisdom. She's certain that Mimir and Loki are concealing a secret from her, but Mimir pleads that he would wish to tell her, but it's still too early, so she agrees to wait. However, she states that she can't sit still, and when Mimir asks her what ideas she has, she explains that the adversary is still too immature because, according to the prophecy, there are innumerable hardships waiting for him, and he needs a guide. Sometime later, around 7 days before Mills Academy admission, Jaehyun comes to the store to get some items with a lady. She notices that he doesn't look so good and asks if there's something on his mind, but our boy says it's nothing, so she leads him to buy the rest of the things he'll need. Even though he said it's nothing, what's on his mind is how he went through so much without getting answers, and even ended up with even more questions. Fortunately, he was able to get the passive skill, Hell's Blessing, and an X-rank skill. Our boy has other EX-rank skills too, one that's called One Watched by the Gods, which helps the user's rapid growth with the blessing of the gods. Another one is the Absolute Eye of God, which penetrates through false illusions and sees the absolute reality. The X rank is a rank that Jaehyun had never heard about with the Aesir system, and the X rank is short for extraordinary, and it seems to be a skill that exists outside the norms of the Aesir system. As he considers that the reason the gods against the Aesir provided him with these skills is for him to kill the great god, Odin, he becomes overwhelmed once more. He's soon brought out of his deep thoughts when he notices the lady he came with paying 300 million won for a mere mana blade, which is just an expendable item. As she brings out a long list on her phone of things they still have to buy, Jaehyun becomes worried. Hours before, this lady, named Park Hana, had approached our boy and told him she's from the Manhwa Guild. Apparently, Seonggwen wishes to give him a gift seeing his admission to Mila's is right around the corner, and he had thought they would be coming here to buy a few elixirs and artifacts at best, but this is on a totally different scale. After offloading several bags in Jaehyun's hands, she proposes they go take a look at armor now, but Jaehyun stops her and says they don't have to buy armor since he has something that he can use. He shows her a shadow armor equipment that he received from Nightshade that gives him the stealth skill once equipped. Since it's B-rank protective gear, he's certain that there's nothing they can buy that's better than this, especially since it also provides stealth. When Hana notices his armor has stealth skills, she asks him if he also needs an artifact that grants the stealth skill since that's an item all raiders would desire, even though it would be difficult to obtain in a place like this, but Jaehyun says he doesn't. He adds that it would be difficult to get one unless he's lucky to find one in a dungeon, especially since there aren't that many people who learn stealth. Hana agrees because the only raider who possesses the skill in the country is her brother. She walks away right after saying that, and Jaehyun asks her what she means, so she informs him that manager Park Sungjae is her brother. That information shocks Jaehyun, and as she walks away, he can't believe it because Hana and Sungjae act nothing alike. Out of nowhere, his eyes begin to shine bright, and the Nornir system informs him that an unknown entity is resonating with him. He begins to feel queasy, and he suddenly sees a light trail that he had seen from the treasure gate. When he dashes back to follow the light, Hana calls out to him, but he tells her he's only going away for a moment. While he's following the light, his absolute eye of God skill is activated and pierces through the false illusion and shows the truth. The system informs him that the absolute eye of God's first low-rank skill has been opened, and he's obtained the skill called Detection. Detection is also an extraordinary rank skill that allows him to check unappraised items as well as invalidate an opponent's stealth or phantom skills. While he watches in surprise, the Nornir system activates the detection skill. In another place, a close combat match occurs and is soon concluded after a guy named An Hoyeon beats his opponent. Some men in the audience talk about how phenomenal Hoyeon is, but clarify that the difference in his talent and that of his opponent is too obvious, which is the reason why they say he's a future S-rank raider. When Hoyeon leaves the fighting ground, his father commends him for having done a good job. However, his father warns him not to get excited because this was an obvious win. With no excitement in his eyes, Hoyeon states that he knows, so his father proposes he goes to prepare for the next planned activity and asks him to go take a shower. While he's in the shower, Hoyeon thinks about how he despises this tiresome life where his own opinion and desires don't matter. The raider that he wanted to become was nothing like this, and he wonders when it turned out this way. In the store, the Nornir system presents our boy with an equipment item called Mistletoe, with a growth-type rating, which is a mistletoe branch that ended the life of Odin's son, Balder. It grows alongside its user and contains an immeasurable amount of magic, and it allows the user to acquire the passive skill called Mana Perception once equipped. The Mana Perception skill is rated A, and it raises the user's ability to detect mana to the highest possible extent. Jaehyun is excited, but he wonders if this is one of the Nornir system's tricks, and as he keeps following the light, he walks past Hoyeon. While Hoyeon stands by, his father picks several pieces of equipment for him. When Hoyeon asks if they need to buy this much, his father insists that they will all be of use to him since he's someone who will become an S-rank raider, and he doesn't need to be too stingy about such things. Hoyeon further protests that spending this much will affect his mom's hospital fee for this month, but his father silences him. His dad insists that it is for him to worry about, and his job is to just focus on training, so Hoyeon agrees with his dad as usual. While his dad continues buying, the boy wonders what the heck he's doing there. While he follows his dad through the store, several people who recognize him wonder what a combat genius like him is doing in this store. Meanwhile, Hoyeon pays them no attention as some of them try to take pictures of him, and he wonders if this is truly the raider life he envisioned. He wonders what the difference is between this and being a monkey stuck in a zoo. When he was young and first awakened his abilities, his mother smiled softly at him and patted him on the head. He dreamt of becoming a raider in that dark and poverty-stricken house because he was like a ray of light that could change everything. However, that light didn't last long in front of his father's wish to make use of it. Right now, as if he were a robot, he's merely a tool that continuously does as his father says. He wonders if he can last for 3 years at Mills Academy when he's this pathetic. While they're walking around, a message comes through the speakers to inform all visitors that a dungeon break has occurred in the vicinity of the department store, and monsters have appeared. They're told the raiders sent by the agency are on their way, and they're asked to calmly follow the employees. By the way, dungeon breaks occur when a dungeon isn't cleared within the time limit, causing monsters to overflow from it. Some of the employees signal to the people to follow them and try to calm them down, As Hoyeon's father goes towards the evacuation, he asks Hoyeon why he's just standing behind and not following. His father reminds him that he's a genius with the potential for complete control over Korea in the future. If he gets hurt in a place like this, it will only become a disadvantage during the Mills enrollment event. He warns Hoyeon that he won't gain anything from getting involved, but Hoyeon still doesn't move an inch. The boy agrees with his father that the raiders from the agency should be able to quickly take care of the monsters, but while they're on their way, he wonders what will happen to all the civilians who don't have the strength to protect themselves. This is his chance, and he dashes in the opposite direction as his father orders him to come back. To Hoyeon, this is his chance to prove that he can succeed as a raider. He tells himself that he has to make sure to know if his current self is anything like what he longed to show his mother when he was younger. While running, he has to pause when he runs into a group of gruesome-looking goblins who look both confused and excited to see him. For a moment, he just stands, and sweat starts to trickle down his face, and his body doesn't move at all like he had envisioned. The only movement from him is the tremor in his pupils, and as the monsters rush towards him, he realizes he can't move a single finger or take a single step. He tries to force his body to move, and as one goblin gets close enough to slice him with its sword,